So my last couple uploads, I did the full moon in Pisces reading. I did a reading on the energies in September, and those messages had me funneling more towards relationships. And obviously, relationships is a big part of our existence here. So there's many different dynamics. There's the dynamics that went on in childhood. There's coworkers. There's romantic relationships. There's anytime you interact with somebody, there's an energetic exchange going on. And so it's really good to understand what is that? What am I showing myself through the interactions in this relationship? And so I posted a shorts video which talked about the 12th house and looking at your 12th house and how that can give you some clues in terms of, hey, maybe I'm unconsciously projecting stuff in relationships. There's an expectation of this person. Think of close relationships like family members or romantic relationships. There's something I'm needing from them, and I'm not even aware of it. And so I project that on them, and they can meet it or they could not meet it. And how I react to that will help me understand a little bit more of who I am. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the 12th house, but I'm going to talk about the second house. I'm going to talk about the fourth house, the seventh house, your ascendant, and the eighth house. And I'm going to try to make that as concise as possible to try to help you to potentially look at your own chart and understand yourself a little bit better, or look at clients' charts. However you want to use the information, I just felt compelled to do a relationship video. So with that, let's dig in. So with all of these relationship dynamics that can go on and that you would experience through your lifetime, how do you understand yourself better through them? It's really what it comes down to, is when we have relationships with people where it's reflecting back to us things about ourselves. So the more that we can understand what's being reflected back to us, the more whole we can become, and the more authentic we can express ourselves, and the more enriching our relationships become. So looking at your natal chart can help you understand, what energy do I carry? What am I projecting? What do I need to receive to me? Why do I need to receive that energy? Why am I needing to attract that energy? What am I looking to see within myself? And so I'm going to walk through some ways that you can look at your chart and understand that for yourself. And so this isn't going to be exhaustive. I'm not going to go through all of the aspects and what do they mean, and the rulers of some of the archetypes and where are their placements and what aspects do they hold. I'm not going to attribute this back to your Pluto placement. I'm just looking at this from a energetic relationship standpoint. So I'm going to introduce 4 different layers of the onion, so to speak, that you can look at in your chart so you can gain some more understanding about yourself and the people that you're interacting with. So to start, the first thing is your Mars and your Venus placement. And so before I even get into that, it's really important if you're at this point or you're wanting to learn this more, is to understand the archetypes, Aries through Pisces. What do they mean? And so I'm going to put a link below to a video I did a little while ago that walks through the different archetypes so that that's foundational. So if you're not quite sure on what they mean, that would be a great place to start before you watch this. Then you'll have a strong foundation to be able to work through these layers and understand, oh, I have a Venus in Cancer. What does that mean? The Cancer archetype, or I have a Mars in Pisces. Well, what does Pisces mean? And so that's going to be important. So, Mars, what sign is it in? What house is it in for you? Is going to be your outward expressed energy. It's instinctual. I'm going to do it. And so you have that energy. Then you have the Venus energy, which is your inner vibration. It's kind of the energy that's vibrating within you and the energies that you will attract to you for your evolution, or simply energies that you will naturally navigate to, which is an energetic expression that's going to work well for you in terms of your evolution and what you want to express in this lifetime. And so I'm going to have a link below in the description. There's a couple articles or small write-ups that I have for Mars through the signs and Venus through the signs on my website. And it also has a link if you're not even sure what your Mars and your Venus placements are, what signs they're in, you can find that out through there as well. So you can know your Mars, what sign it's in, your Venus, what sign it's in, and then you can add on top of that the house placement. So you might have a Mars in Aries, but the Mars in Aries might be in the fifth house, which is the Leo house, which then you can layer on top the Leo archetype. Creativity, maybe relationships with children is going to be part of it. Fun, play, expressing sexual energy will be part of it. Same thing with your Venus placement. So maybe you have a Venus in Virgo, but maybe your Venus in Virgo is in the 11th house, which will now you can add on top of the Virgo archetype, you can add the Aquarius archetype to that. So attracting or holding a vibration, it's actually both holding the vibration of wanting to individuate, wanting to express myself in a unique way, or contributing to humanity in some way is going to be part of the energy I hold within me, and that I will attract towards me. So you can get a good amount of information just from this, but we're going to go deeper into this. So the next layer, once you have Mars and Venus, is to look at your first and your seventh house. These houses are the underlying foundation of these houses is Mars and it is Venus. It's the outward expression of Venus. So looking at your chart, what sign's on the cusp of your first house, which would be your ascendant? What sign is on the cusp of your descendant? What planets are in your first house? What planets are in your seventh house? So you can add this information on top of your Mars and your Venus placement. In this example, I just have a natural zodiac, which is Aries on the first house ascendant all the way through Pisces, but maybe you have Gemini on your ascendant. So adding to your Mars placement, there would be a Gemini flavoring to it. And the first house is you. That's how you express yourself. The people closest to you would see you as that. And so you can add that to the Mars placement. Let's say it is Gemini. So Gemini is all about the mind. It's about logic. It's about communicating. It's about learning. So that's going to be a big part of your self-expression that gets brought out in relationship to others. And then the seventh house, similar to Venus, is what am I going to be attracting to me so I can refine that self-expression? Using the Gemini example, learning, communication, what types of energies do I need to draw to me so that I can understand for myself ways in which I need to communicate or how I can communicate most effectively, or maybe people that will teach me certain ways of doing things. And some point at some point in your evolution, you can be a model of teaching or learning or communication to other people in relationships. It works that way as well. But using the example of Gemini, you would in most house systems have Sagittarius on the cusp of your seventh house. So just looking at that without any planets, Sagittarius is higher learning, intuition, long distance travel. Really, from an evolutionary astrology perspective, it's wanting to define my own truth. Why am I here? What is the nature of existence for myself and all of us on this planet? And so I will draw to me people that have that type of frequency or that have that type of energy, so that I can understand Gemini. I can learn from people, Sagittarius. And so that's another layer of the onion that you can add to your Mars and Venus placements. And so look at the ruler of both of those first and seventh houses. What is the archetype there? Understand that. And then if you have any planets in those houses, what are those planets symbolize? If there's Mercury there, well, that's the third house. It's all about communication. Or maybe you have the sun. Well, it's really important for you to shine, whether it's in the first house or the seventh house. What sign is your sun in? That's where you're going to derive purpose from all your life experiences through there. So this is the next layer of the onion. The next layer is the 12th house, the second house, and the seventh house. So this is, if you're familiar with astrology and the certain aspects, or how do I say that? Configurations. So there's Yod, there's the mystic rectangle, there's the grand trine, all of those type of things. This would be, from a house perspective, indicative of the finger of God, or the Yod, it's called as well. So this will be another layer you can add to what I already talked about, which is the 12th house is usually unconscious projections. When I'm talking about this in relationship to other people, it could be conscious. It depends. It always depends on your evolutionary, where you're at in your evolution. You may incarnate and already be well aware of your 12th house, any planets there, the sign on the cusp. But for a lot of people on the planet, it could be unconscious, meaning that you're not really aware that you're looking to uncover or unearth that type of energy. And so a lot of the ways that you'll do that is through relationships. People will point that out, or they will come in to highlight that for you. There's a natural sextile pattern between the 12th and the second house. And the second house is the inner side of Venus. So it's your personal, it's your self-esteem, it's your personal resources. It's, how do I sustain my existence? Do I have everything that I need to sustain my existence? What are the skills? What are the things within me I can draw upon to create, to make money, to make sure that I have a roof over my head, to pay for my bills, that type of stuff. And then both of these work together, but they're in an inconjunct to the seventh house, which is the Libra house. So where this can work, where you can look at it in your chart, is how am I projecting these in relationships? So if you think of the 12th house where it's unconscious, using just this example here with the natural zodiac and Pisces, if it's unconscious, Pisces energy can be one where I'm projecting ultimate meaning in a partner, or I have the rose-colored glasses on. And when I get into a relationship with somebody, I can easily see the best in them. I can come into contact with them and I'm like, man, they're amazing. They do this well. They've got their shit together. They've got a good job. They're expressive. I like the clothes they wear. It's the rose-colored glasses. And that's just one interpretation of Pisces in the 12th house. It could also be that you're attracting or wanting to attract somebody that holds some type of spiritual expression to themselves, but maybe you're not really even aware of that, and maybe you don't feel like you're that interested in that stuff, but you keep drawing people to you, or you keep getting exposed to different things where it's kind of poking you to become more aware of your own spirituality can be part of this. And so I'm projecting that, maybe not even consciously, into relationships, and I'm calling that to me. Can be an expression of that. And then the second house, well, how does the second house play into this projection into the seventh house? This can be things that I don't feel that I have, that I need to sustain my existence. And so maybe I project them into relationships. I call people to me that I feel like I'm not good enough in some way. And so I would need other people to be able to help me to, using something basic, get a job, or to develop some type of skill that I feel that I don't have. Or maybe it's just something where I don't feel good enough on my own. I need to collaborate with other people. It's important for me. I need to share energy with people. And so there's an underlying feeling within me that I can't do it on my own. So I'm going to attract people to me to help me understand that I can do it on my own. And that's kind of the great paradox in these projections within relationships is you can do it on your own. I'm going to pull people to me that can show me that I can do it on my own. And that can come across as you relying on somebody. Let's say you attract somebody and you wind up relying on them from a financial standpoint. They're sustaining your existence financially. Maybe they are the ones that have a job and they're paying for you in some way. And so it feels good for you because you're like, yeah, that's awesome. Somebody's helping and they're providing for me. At some point, that will shift. It may not even be in this lifetime. It may be in another lifetime, but at some point it will shift and those resources will be taken away. And why do those resources get taken away? So that you can understand and realize you have everything you need within you to sustain your existence. And so until you understand what that feedback is telling you, that cycle will continue. If you still feel, let's say you get into a relationship and somebody is supporting you financially, and for some reason that relationship shifts and those resources are no longer available to you. And so you're like, crap, now I need to do this on my own. If you still feel like you can't do it on your own and you're not good enough, then maybe you'll attract somebody else that maybe the same pattern repeats again and they are supporting you financially. And again, for a period of time, that will feel good. But at some point, that will shift. And part of your evolution will be, I can do this on my own. So just looking at Pisces and Taurus, well, Taurus is an earth sign. It's grounded. It is self-sustaining. But depending on other factors in your chart, maybe you carry that, but it's not, you don't, because of childhood conditioning, you don't really feel like you can. So you'll attract many other people, Libra, different perspectives, other people you'll pull to you to help you realize your own self-worth, Taurus. So maybe in that example I used with Pisces here and Libra on the cusp of the seventh house, maybe I keep projecting ultimate meaning in relationships with other people and I rely on them for my security. Well, that'll keep shifting. The rose-colored glasses will come off at some point, and maybe you'll have to rely on yourself, or you'll get pushed back on yourself. And the underlying, what you're trying to show yourself there is being able to tap into your own resources to be able to support yourself. And so this is just one example of these archetypes. Again, I would encourage you to go back and learn the archetypes, and then you can look at your own chart, correlate that to your own experience, and say, oh, this is how this is playing out for me. That's kind of what I'm envisioning here by this. So what I just went through here is another layer of the onion. So the next layer of the onion, so you've stacked all of these on top of each other, or you didn't, and maybe you stopped at Mars and Venus and you exited. However you take this information, but here's the next layer. So the next layer is, we're back to the ascendant. We're now going to pull the fourth house in, and we're going to pull the eighth house into this. So look at these all together. And so the first house, again, is you, how you express yourself. The fourth house is your foundation, which gets created in childhood. So your caregivers, your parents, they presented you with a certain way of looking at life, and they raised you in a certain way. Their perspective of you, how to raise you, how they were conditioned, gets handed down to you, and it shapes your reality. So it shapes your ego. It defines what you feel, how you feel safe, which, depending on your childhood environment, you may not feel safe. And it's your emotional well-being. So how were your emotions? How were they received by your parents? Were they very supportive, or were they not? Or was it somewhere in between? That fourth house is your foundation. So how that gets created, how that was created, how you received it, is a big part of how you orient yourself in relationships. The eighth house is deeply merging energies with other people. So think of family members. I like to think of the eighth house as, when I talked about the seventh house being relationships of all kinds, the seventh house is, think of, let's use a romantic relationship and say you go on a date with somebody, you like them, you start to get to know them, you start going on multiple dates, you date them for a period of time, months, years, and you decide, let's get married. Well, now you just took seventh house territory and you moved it into the eighth house. We're going deep with one another. Or you're dating somebody and you start to exchange sexual energy with them. Then you start getting into Scorpio eighth house territory. Or you're dating somebody and you just agree, hey, it would be cool if we moved in with one another. What do you think? And the other person's like, yeah, let's do it. Well, now you're taking it into eighth house territory, into deeply merged territory. Or you can be in that same space, seventh house territory, and maybe the relationship goes deep where you start talking about some of your childhood stuff, or maybe metaphysical stuff is eighth house territory, or trying to understand or sense the larger picture of why we're here or why we experience certain things. That's Scorpio territory, asking the why, getting into the deeper questions. So why these three areas? This is active in everyone's consciousness. So there's the first house, which I have to do me. So your Mars placement, your first house. I need absolute freedom to do this. Then I have the fourth house, which was conditioned in childhood. And I have the eighth house, which is deeply merging myself and my fourth house with other people. So there's a natural inconjunct here. It's really hard to maintain your independence when you're blending energies with other people or you're going deep with other people. But in order to refine your self-expression, that first house and your Mars placement, I'm going to need to go deep with other people, or I'm going to ask the deeper questions. I'm going to need to know why. I'm going to have to explore things beyond the five senses. I'm going to understand why this reality? Why am I in this body? Why am I experiencing certain things? And then there's a natural square between the first and the fourth, and the fourth and the eighth, which is tension. So that fourth house conditioning and that first house you, when you go to eighth house territory, you're trying to expose that to other people. So that's definitely the dynamic with family members, because you're holding the DNA, you're holding the DNA of your ancestry. So just right off the bat, that's Scorpio territory. That's where a lot of shit goes down with family members. Like, I talk to people and they're like, well, why, this is my sister or my brother or my mom or my aunt or my cousin. So why is this so difficult? And it's like, yeah, well, it's ancestry. You've probably had many other lifetimes together, and you're working through stuff. There's karmic things, there's underlying unconscious stuff that's going on. You're trying to maintain your first house, your independence, but you have all of these thoughts and beliefs that are coming from the ancestral line or coming from your parents or caregivers that could be in contrast to that. And so that contributes, it contributes to your foundation and will be there as you evolve throughout your lifetime. So think of that childhood environment, and now I'm going out and I'm forming deep relationships with other people. Well, that fourth house stuff is going to get exposed in the eighth house. So think of a childhood environment where your emotional needs weren't met. And so you have a certain way that you maybe react within your own emotional self. Maybe you're not comfortable with your own emotions, or maybe you project the emotional needs that you didn't receive in childhood onto other people in relationships. And so they will mirror back to you what any imbalances you have emotionally within you will get reflected back to you in that eighth house. And so look at your archetypes there. Look at the cusp of, let's see if I can erase all this relatively quickly. Oops, hold on. So look at that cusp look at your ascendant, the cusp of the first house. What's the zodiac sign on the cusp of your fourth house? What's the zodiac sign on the cusp of your eighth house? Are there any planets here that could add more context? Are there any planets here? Are there any planets here? You can go to that level if you feel comfortable. You can just look at the signs on the cusp of the house, which will give you some information. You go as deep as you want into this. And there's even more layers than what I'm displaying here, but this is just to give you a good foundational understanding. And so just using the archetypes here, let's say Aries, Cancer, and Scorpio, I am going to project Aries. There's independence within me. There's a strong belief system. I can take the lead on things. Could literally be a leader. And then Cancer energy. How is that Cancer energy displayed to me in childhood? That's going to get exposed in the eighth house, which has a Scorpio flavoring to it. The natural ruler is Pluto, transformation. We're going to go deep. So I'm going to attract to me people that are going to help me understand the best use of my Aries energy and help me utilize that Cancer energy, or understand my emotional dynamics, and anything that's imbalanced there will get exposed in the eighth house. This also could be, again, it depends on your evolution and where you're at. Let's say this is a higher frequency vibration of Aries and Cancer. I may attract people to me in eighth house that I can help heal, that I can help people that are within my circle. Maybe it's even your family. Maybe you can help heal your ancestry, where I can show you the right ways to take responsibility for your own emotions, to build a firm foundation for yourself. Maybe I can highlight for people, maybe I'm a natural psychologist, Scorpio. Maybe I can just feel things metaphysically. Maybe I'm an energy worker and I can heal things within people to help them express their own Aries and their own Cancer energy more authentically. That can be an expression of this energy. So just look at this for yourself and then understand the archetypes, look at the first, the fourth, and the eighth house, correlate it to your experiences, and that will give you some more information. Let's see if I can wipe this out quickly. Yep. And so this last slide is just tying this all together, all of the things that I just covered. So, we have Mars and Venus to start this off, first in the seventh house, the 12th, the second, and the seventh house. And then we had the first, the fourth, and the eighth. So you can look at all of these in totality after you stepped through all of these and then meditate on it. Look at the archetypes. What is it trying to show you? Maybe go back to some experiences that you had relationship-wise, which you experienced triggers, or you had deep emotional stuff come up for you during those relationships. And this might be able to give you some information in terms of, what am I trying to show myself here? Why did I experience those things? Is it a repeat of something? Is it a repeat of dynamics that I had in childhood? Or maybe my own self-expression is not really honoring of other people's perspectives. Like if I just looked at the natural zodiac here, where I look at Aries and Libra, Aries needs absolute independence to do them, right? But is that Aries energy being directed in a way that is the most helpful for yourself and is honoring of the perspective of other people? Libra is other people. It's like, think of Libra as everybody else is coming to you with their own Aries energy. And so how do you express yourself authentically in this world? Make sure you express yourself authentically, because that is really important, but doing it in a way that is honoring of other people. And maybe you have your own way of doing things and your own actions that you want to take, but you are able to listen, which is a function of Libra, being able to listen to another person's perspective and honoring that, and understanding that they had their own path and they have their own journey, and this is their perspective, and honoring that, and being able to collaborate with people. And so you can look at all of these houses, this 12th, the first, the second, the fourth, and the eighth, and you can really understand a little bit more about your own energetic expression, what you're trying to attract to you, why, and why you've had some experiences in relationships. So as always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your energy. Hopefully this was helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you again in another video. Thanks.